A lot of you may not know this about me, but I'm actually a fan of the Darkness. I mean a fan of the early Darkness where he looked like a souped up version of Casey Jones. I still remember the battles he had with the Magdalena, Witchblade, and the Angelus. He even had a battle with the Hulk. I actually have all the Darkness comics before they did the revamp of the art style, and it is through these comics that I found out who Mark Silvestri was. And through him, I found one of my favorite comic artists being Michael Turner. If you don't know who that is, look up his comic book art style. It is extremely lovely, but unfortunately, he passed away 3 years ago due to complications. But his art style, I hope, would inspire many others to follow suit. That's enough of my comic book backstory. This is a game, and I'm not allowed to judge it back on my own comic book nostalgia. I have to judge it on playability and its own story, not how it relates to the source material. So without further ado, let's review The Darkness. Perhaps I need to calm down a little. Anyway, you play through the game as Jackie Estacado. And needless to say, Jackie has been through some hard shit in his life. And he teaches us that no matter how many times you bury your past, it doesn't mean shit if it keeps digging itself out of its own damn grave. Well, thank you, voice in my head. That was very good. No problem. Anyway, moving on from my own insanity, The Darkness has a story that is not for the faint of heart. It has a rich history that spans over a decade of comics to draw on for inspiration, and the developers are taking some of the absolute worst and traumatic events to put into this game. The key selling point of the game is the darkness itself and how you're able to control it through combat. It's able to regenerate any damage you take as long as you stay in the shadows where it is comfortable. Along with the firearms of the game, you are able to use two tentacles of the darkness and are able to rip enemies apart, tear open blockades that will hinder Jackie's progression. Not to mention grabbing projectiles and throwing them at people, which sometimes you can use for defense. Look, what do you want me to actually tell you about the combat? It's another first-person shooter with two extra tentacles to grab onto things and toss around a little midget. To be quite honest, I wish they would have allowed you to use one of the tentacles to jack off in the middle of combat. At least then, I would have been surprised. Although I will admit that it is one of the more gorier games to have come out recently. In games like this, as long as the guns shoot accurate enough so that you don't feel like you're shooting at the damn moon with every shot, then I think you're fine. There isn't a level up system in the game per se, but there is a system for you to upgrade your power to a certain degree, which a lot of people would just call stat buffs, which can range from health to more bullets for your guns when you pick them up. Although you feel that like they aren't really needed because Jackie is probably the definition of overpowered, there's still a nice bit of something to have you focus on. Enemies range from somewhat decent to just dumb as a motherfucker while they're rushing you with their guns out but not shooting, but I'm not taking any points away from that because I guarantee you walk down the street, you'll find a dumbass motherfucker really fast. So why would I fault the game for it? Some of the animations are clunky when compared to the animation for the kills, but this is all just nitpicking. It's average. So how do you differentiate this from the rest of the pack? Simple. It's story, narrative, and player involvement. Do you care about the characters? Do you enjoy the feel of the atmosphere of the game? And it's here that the darkness thickens, because the art style of the game is absolutely lovely with the cel shading effect that resonates with the comic book world that inspired it. There's a few issues with slowdowns that have occurred, but it was never enough to be a game breaker. In short, The Darkness is a good game. The problem is, who are they catering to? For fans of the comic, they may like this, and then again, they may not. Because for all of you who don't know, The Darkness can do pretty much anything. And this is a game, so there has to be limits to what you can do. But to anyone who has a hard-on for first-person shooters with a meaty story, they can't really go wrong with The Darkness. But with a 6-hour story campaign and multiplayer that at its best will last a week before the servers just go completely dead, it's kinda hard to justify the $60 purchase price. But I'm sure we all have bought games that we have been disappointed by. So to be fair, The Darkness is a good game. At this point, it's pretty much just up to you and your opinion on what you wish to pay your money for. But since I have to give these games a score, here it is. Dum dum dum, and it gets a 2. Can you believe it? A 2. This is the highest score I've given yet. Congratulations, Darkness, you received a 2.